Hey everybody, Zach here, and welcome to the 36th lesson of this RTS tutorial series. In this video, we'll be finishing our HUD for our buildings. We'll be adding in its functionality. That said, fire up your editor, and let's get started. And here we are back inside our editor. So I have our occupant text field open from last time and our building info HUD. We also are going to need to create an interface, and we're going to need to add our HUD to our building master. So let's open up our building master, and let's just quickly knock out that interface, even if we don't do anything with it in this particular video. And this interface is going to be a really simple one. We're going to use it also in the vehicle fix video as well in the next section. So let's go back to our blueprints. Let's go to our library. I really shouldn't be doing my interfaces in here, but meh. I've already started. Maybe we'll change this in the cleanup video or the cleanup section because I want to do a lot of cleanup. And let's do a blueprint interface. This will be RTS, and this will be occupant info IF. Which, again, if you're following the, sort of prep work I'm doing on Twitch, it isn't going to be what I show in this tutorial series. In fact, actually, it's more messy than the training sort of stuff I have in here. And that's simply because it's me working out how I want to teach it. So this first function, we're going to rename as set occupant names. There we go. And it's going to have one return node, and this will be success. So if this works, then we'll, oh yeah, I can't move that here. We'll move that in we move that in the actual blueprints we use this interface in. And this one will be units. And this will be of type RTS unit master. So RTS unit master, and it will be an array. There we go. Compile, save. All right, so this interface shows up in our building, and it shows up in our HUDs as well. It shows up in our building HUD. It does not show up in here. It also will show up in our vehicle HUD down the road as well. So let's just add this to the correct blueprint. So we're in here, we're inside our building. We go to the class settings. We're going to add in our occupant info IF. There we go. Compile, save, and go to your graph here. We're going to get rid of this for now. And we're going to add in our class settings, our occupant info IF. There we go. Compile, save. Alright, so the full functionality for that will be set up when we combine our workers or our units. Actually, I don't have a unit on the screen. Our units with our buildings. Which is the reason why we are doing this, the HUD, before we finish out the construction with the units, because we need to have certain info for those HUDs to work correctly. And we need that info in the HUD for the construction to work correctly. So it's kind of a chicken or the egg approach, and I think this is just the most logical sort of workflow way to do it. Otherwise, we lose the units. So I'm just flipping through this to see how I want to do this. We don't need the interface anymore. We can close that out. Let's just add this so it shows up on the screen. So let's get rid of this construction time. We don't need that. So remember we had that pin down there. I said we're going to add our stuff to this pin. Well, let's get to it. So, what we need is we need to get a reference to our player controller out. So player controller, boom. We need to bind event to display unit HUD. Really should also rename that probably because it should be just bind event to display unit HUD. We're going to rename that now. And let's actually go into our player controller and do that renaming real quick before I forget. So let's go back to, sorry to do some of the cleanup. This one is one I will forget for the cleanup section. So we're going to just rename this, and we're going to rename it as display HUD. Compile and save. Let's go back to our building. Ooh. Refresh node. All right, hopefully that will actually rename shortly. I'm not sure why the name hasn't actually worked correctly. I'm slightly concerned by that, but we'll take care of that in just a second. So we're going to create a custom event, and this custom event will be our display HUD. So display building HUD. We need a boolean on here. We're not going to use this one, but this is just because we're reusing this display HUD, and it has an argument that says it needs this boolean there. We also actually need one more thing. It has two arguments. So we're going to move that up there. This also needs to have the actor. So we need an actor. And all right, so there's our actor. So we're going to just grab off of here. We're going to do a branch. And we don't want this to fire if the actor isn't equal to itself. So we're going to do equal equal. Plug this into there. And just drag off of here and do a reference to self. There we go. All right, so if the building is equal to itself, so if we have a valid target that we've clicked, then we want to add in the viewport. So we need to actually create a reference to that blueprint, or to that particular variable. Also, if you've noticed, I've just used the player controller. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do this slightly differently. We are going to make this work in a very different way, which is going to lead to a bug. So we're going to get rid of that. We're also going to get rid of that because we'll get an error message. We are going to cast to our player controller instead. So get player controller. Drag off of here, and this will be RTS player controller. We're going to convert to a pure cast. I don't know why I was moving that there like I wasn't going to do a pure cast. And there we go. Just set that there. Plug that in. And we need one more thing. We need to create a reference to our HUD. I mean, this isn't really a cast, but it's a reference. So I'm going to just, I call this reference casts. I'm just going to do it in here. And that will be our HUD. I know I've done it in other parts before, but create widget. This will be of our building info HUD. We're going to promote this to a variable. This will be our building HUD. So go into my references because it's a reference to a different object. And let's plug this output in. There we go. The owning. Ooh, hang on. We've skipped something that's kind of important. Yep, I know there's an error. We need to go in here for a second into our building info HUD and in our event graph, and we need to create a quick reference to our building itself. So there's our reference. We're going to name this references as a category, expose on spawn, make it so we can edit it, and this will be our building master BP. Compile, save. Okay, back in here. Refresh this node, and then we need a reference to self. There we go. So we are now passing the building through here. Compile, save. Yes, I know there's still the error in this one. Now that we've done that, we can go back to our building, our display building, and we can finish setting that up. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our building HUD reference here. We're going to get it. and we are going to add to viewport. Yes, this is what we've done a million times already. Not a million, but you know, feels that way when you have to do this as a prep file and as a tutorial, and when you have multiple videos of the tutorial doing it. We reset the Z order to 1 as usual. And we are going to then get the player controller reference here. Get it? We are going to set input mode UI only. Boom. There we go. Just drag this down. Drag this down here. Actually, also I want to line this up first. Now drag both of these down there. And we want to reference our main, what do we actually call it now? Do we rename this HUD main game? Awesome. So we did rename it. I'm glad I went back there to check. We want to reference this HUD. So HUD main game. We want to get it. And we want to keep this enabled so we can change game time. Set is enabled. Now this will lead to a little bit of issues with regards to you can still actually place buildings in this mode. But we'll take care of that down the road. Alright, now we can do our event. So I'm going to do my event dispatcher, create event, and there we go. We only have one in there that fits. Compile. Hey, and actually renamed it finally. There we go. Save as, and let's hit play real quick. Let's spawn in a building. And there we go. We have our text. And you can see it's cut off here, so I want to fix that real quick. Oh yeah, we can't close that yet. We haven't set that button to do anything yet. Let's go to our graph here. Let's highlight this building. I've already worked out that I want to set it to, I think it was 320. There we go. That should take care of that. So let's do some of the functionality in here first real quick. Let's get to our close button. Let's do an on clicked for that one. And this one is a fairly standard sort of thing we've done before. What we're going to do is we are simply going to tell it to remove it from the viewport. We've done this plenty of times. So we're going to grab our building reference. Get. We are going to get our player controller. Player controller. Sorry, just lining these up. We are going to drag off of this, and we are going to set game mode as game mode and UI. We do not want to lock the cursor. We want to plug that into there. And then we want to remove from parent. Remember, we have to do the remove from parent, which is deleting the HUD after we have set the game mode. If we do it before, we'll get an error saying pending kill or pending destroy. This can't be done because this has already happened. We're going to do a custom event, just like I showed you last time. This will be close widget, or I'm gonna fix the typo on that. Close widget. There we go. And we're gonna plug that directly into there. All right. So that takes care of the close button. Let's test this out real quick. Make sure it works. Put a factory in. Boom. Boom. We're good. Okay. So we have a few things we need to take care of then in terms of functionality. We're going to worry about the names. We're going to worry about everything that's on here to some extent, and the keyword is some. You know, we're not going to have full functionality of this, and we might not get full functionality of this in this video either. I actually might do a separate video for the delete feature because we need to actually create another delete button that's actually going to go on the HUD. But I'll show you at the end of this video what I have done in the test file, in case anyone doesn't follow my Twitch channel there. So let's go to our graph here. And we are going to need a few things. We're actually, let's go back to the designer. Let's highlight the button itself. We are going to need the on clicked, the on hovered, and the on unhovered. So on clicked, on hovered, and on unhovered. We need all three because these will serve, and the event tick will actually go underneath this all. This will actually serve as our right click. These three together will be our right click because UMGs don't have right click events in them. All right, so let's take care of just setting up the left click, which when we left click So when we open up the HUD and there's an occupant in the building, it'll display the unit's name. So that's going to require these things to work together. If we left click that name, which will be in here, then it will display that unit's profile. If we right click it, it's going to release that unit from the building, only that unit. So we're going to get building. We want to know, is this a building HUD we're in? We can do an if statement, but I just want to do is valid, because if it isn't valid, we're getting the same sort of if statement. Sorry. Not only is it an if statement, it is a whole bunch of other nice little things in there. Go back into here, plug that into there. If it isn't valid, well, are we then at least inside, actually, are we then at least inside a vehicle HUD, that is. So again, is valid. And we're using the question mark one. We'll use a function one in a little bit, actually. Is that valid? Let's drag this down. As you notice, I'm dragging these down. There's a reason for that. I actually might, we don't need to drag it down that. Yeah, actually I like it that far. It looks better. All right. So, if they are valid, then we want to close the widget, which is why we had these dragged down. So we're just going to put a reroute in there, drag off of this, and do close widget. Put a reroute into here. And I don't know why the reroute likes being like half a step higher than where it is on the other part. So is valid, then we want to close the widget. We also have that close widget on our vehicle HUD. We added that in, technically I added it in between videos. I did add it in during recording. I just forgot to delete it before showing you guys. There we go. So we have a close event for each. Next, then we want to do, once it's closed the widget for the building or the vehicles, we want it to open up the unit widget. So get the unit reference, and we want to display unit HUD. And we want this to go into both the actor and the target. So it's, because we don't have the actual unit selected, well, this is how it's going to work. Now, we have something we need to consider. When we actually do this, we have said before the unit can't be invisible. So if we go to this graph, it can't be hidden. But we had this option, bypass or is not hidden. So if either of those are true, then I can display the HUD. Well, hey, we hit this bypass button. We're going to click it. Now we can see it. Put a reroute into there, and then plug this guy into there. So now our left click is set up. Our right, well, we actually have one more thing we need to do. I'm intentionally leaving something out, and that's related to the right click. We need to do one thing at the end there related to the right click. There's your hint for when I show you a small bug. So I'm going to add in a variable here called is hovering. This will be a boolean, and this will go into my bool folder. And we're going to set this to true when we are over the button. And when we're not over the button, we'll set this to false. This only ticks once. So you can stay on the button and move the mouse around, and this won't re-tick until you move off of it. All right. So that then brings us down to our event tick. We're going to drag off of here, and we're going to have a branch. And this branch is why we can destroy this pretty quickly as needed. We want to know, one, are we hovering over this button and have we right-clicked? If we've done both, then we're going to fire some things off. So we're going to do and we're going to drag our is hovering in. There we go, our is hovering. And we want to know, have we right-clicked? So we're going to do right-click on the screen right now, is mouse button down. And this will be right mouse button. Plug that into there. And then we just need a little bit more room, unfortunately, because this won't get smaller. And we're going to drag off this input, and we're going to promote to variable. And this one will be button press. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to check what HUD we're in. So we're going to drag off of here. I'm going to do a branch. And instead of doing two setups like this, we're just going to do it once. We're going to grab our building because we're starting with our building. And we're going to do is valid. When I say we're starting with our building, I mean because we're in the building section. If I had done this while we were doing the units and the vehicles, I'd have done units first. It doesn't really matter which one you do. It really doesn't. So is our building valid? If it is, then we want to release the unit from the building. If it isn't, we want to release the unit from the vehicle. Unfortunately, we don't have any of that set up, so we have to pause there on that. All right, we are 19 minutes into recording, and we've taken care of most of the button field. We just had to finish the release and see a little bit of a bug. It was kind of a funny bug, and it actually took me a minute to work out that it's. Let me give you another hint. Why it's doing it. When you get to the part where we're releasing the units, it's doing it because it's an event tick. And you'll know what I mean when you get the first release, and I intentionally don't show you the next step you need to do after it releases. There's your third hint. So your third hint is it's after it releases, it's due to the event tick, is your second hint, and your first hint, there is something at the end here that you need to include. All right. So let's go back to this nice little widget we have. And we have a lot of things we need to do. We need to worry about this name. So let's just take care of that real quick. We're going to do get building name. So create binding. So this is going to be get building name. We are going to need a local variable that will be our building name local. So building name local. This will be of our type string, not text, string. We'll convert it to a text at the end. Let's just drag that out there. And also let's just drag this in here. Get, convert. There we have the conversion in place. And let's do a branch here because we're going to need a branch. And what we're doing this branch is we're checking, is the building under construction, yes or no? If it is, we're going to have one name we're going to set it to. And we're going to have a long little string of things we need to do with that. If it isn't, we have another name that's actually relatively easy that we're going to set it to. So I'm going to just drag that into there. And we'll set it down there. There we go. Next, we need our building reference. We're going to get it. We're going to highlight all of this. And we're just going to move that this way, just so we have a little bit more room. We need to know, is this building under construction? So, is under construction. We are going to plug that into there. And what we also need, we're just going to drag this down here, is we need to get the building name. So, building name. So we set this up in that last video. So we can get this name. We are going to convert this name, in this case. There we go. And we're just going to copy all of this for a second here. And we're just going to paste this in here. We're going to get rid of this reroute. We're going to tighten this up a bit. So we're just going to move this in here, move that into there. And what we need to do in this case is we need to append the text. So we are going to append. There we go. And we're going to put a space in there. And then the words under construction. So space, bracket, under construction, close bracket. Pin that into there. I'm just going to drag that out a tiny bit. Drag that out as well. That's not in a nice little spot, unfortunately. Boom. Actually, that should be there. Put a reroute in. And plug that into there. There we go. That names our building. Let's very quickly test to make sure this logic works. So our designer says training post, so we can use anything but the training post for the test. So let's grab our factory. Blank. So it's not passing through correctly. So let's work out quickly why it's not passing through. So yeah, I've just very stupidly forgotten one small step. And it's actually right here. I've got to just put that in there. There we go. That took me way too long to remember to do. It took me about, let's say, 5 minutes to remember that. Yeah, sorry about that. So there we go. Plug that into there, and we now have factory under construction. And now let's test one more thing. Let's actually just go into here for a second. And let's go into our military, take our training post. Drag it out into here. I'm going to rotate it just because it's meant to be facing that way. Drag this back over there. Set is built. Boom. All right. Now, I said you can't use a training post. You can't use it for the construction. You can use it for this part because it gets rid of the under construction. There we go. So that works. Awesome. We're going to leave the training post in here for now, actually, because we're going to come back to this and use this for something else down the road. So that can remain. Those trees, however, that tree might need to go, though, at some point. Just going to move this so I have a little bit of room. All right. So let's go back into our building info. And we now have taken care of the name. Let's take care of the building health. And in fact, actually, you know what? We're just going to go in here. Oops, sorry. I'm going to close everything I'm not going to be using for the rest of the video out. I think if we need any of this, we'll come back to it as needed. Let's go into here. I'm just going to, we'll copy it from the next one because we are going to do something with this. I just opened the wrong thing up again. Back to there. We're going to go to our building health, and we're going to do, is this, building construction, or is this building health? And, all right, so we're going to do binding. Get binding or make binding. Get progress bar label. Remember, this is the label for the progress bar. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we kind of did there, but we don't need as much coming off of this. We're going to do a is under construction, and that's all we need for this one. And we're going to do a branch. And first off, we're just going to copy this because we're going to use this a lot, and just going to save a time to have it in our copy buffer. Plug that into there. Actually, now I'm going to copy it. We are going to then have our local text again, which will be our text label local. And we're going to do one on the true. Boom. Put a reroute in. And one off the false. Boom. Drag into the same thing there. And drag that back this way. This on true, if it's under construction, will say construction progress. If it is not under construction, it will say building health. Take our text label there, get, and just convert it over in here. There we go. Compile and save. Go back to the designer. Let's grab our progress bar, and we'll bind on the percentage here. Create binding, and this will be get progress bar. Let's just get progress bar, right? So get building progress bar, just so we have. No, get progress bar is fine. I'm not gonna make longer than necessary names. All right, this one is a bit more complex in terms of what we need. We're actually gonna leave that up there for now. We do need this branch still, so we're just gonna plug that, paste that right on in and plug it into there. Here we go. Woot, it's there. So what we need is we're gonna need a float off of this. And our float, which we're also going to copy and paste, we're going to highlight two things, is going to come from this. We're going to do a dummy float to begin with, which will be progress bar value local. We'll do the dummy bar, or sorry, this will be a float. We'll do the dummy variable first, which will be for our unit, for building health. Since we don't have a health variable yet set up, we're just going to set this to 0.25. That'll be 25%, by the way. And we will then, on the upper part, have a little bit of a complex thing here. We're going to get a building reference. We are going to, from this building reference, get our time worked. Boom. Put a reroute in. And get our construction time. Oh, not set construction time. We want to get construction time. So construction time. get construction time. We want to divide the time worked by the construction time, which gives us a proportion value, or a float, that we will then set, boom, put the reroute in, as our value here. Now we're going to need both this branch, and we're actually just going to copy all of this in a second, because we're going to use both of these for the last part. And because we're actually going to have something in here later on, let's just put that reroute down there. When I say something in here, we're going to have a health value that we port into this section. So it is just easier to have that preset for that. Put a reroute into there, or not a reroute, put a reroute in, plug it in, put a reroute in, put that into, plug that into there, and take our local value and plug it into the return value there. Alrighty, so we are now returning this value. Let's copy all of this, because we're going to need this all in a second. Actually, we're not going to need this. We're going to need everything but that. Alright, so let's go back to our designer. Let's highlight this number here, and we're going to bind and create binding of get progress bar text. Get progress bar text. Just get rid of that return for a second. Paste that in. Alright. And we're just going to paste that down there. What we need here is pretty much the same thing. Remember I said this returns a proportion. That's a point value. So we use 0.25 to represent 25%. It's a proportion of 1. So with that in mind, what we need to do then is multiply this by 100. So float times float to get the value we want, which is a percentage. Because we don't want a whole bunch of extra numbers appearing on string, we could either append, or we could actually, can we append? No, we have to actually convert this to an integer anyway, so let's just use floor, and we're going to use this to build our string. So we're going to build string, and now we have our integer as a string, and we're going to take that and add a suffix of the percentage sign. There we go. So we now need a, progress bar text local, which will be our string. We are going to set that here, and that's the value we're setting it to. We're setting it to a percentage returned off of that. And let's just put the dummy text into here. We'll add the reroute in just because we're going to need it down the road. In fact, actually, let's just move this down here. There we go. Ooh, I did not mean to do that. Right, there we go. We're going to set this value to 25%. And then let's grab our return. There we go. Plug that into there. Plug in our reroute. We're going to bring it in closer so we have that room to put in the conversion. Grab the progress bar text and convert it on over from a label to from a string to a text. Right. That takes us through there. Now we are going to actually go back to our building thingy majigger here. We're actually going to just copy this completely, because we're going to just do this the same exact thing in 1 second with this. And we just want to save some time. So instead of working hard, let's work smart. All right, so we're going to do a new binding on this, and we're just going to paste this into there because it's the same thing. And we're just going to, promote to the variables as needed. So what we're doing here is we're setting, is it construction workers or is it occupants? That's all. That is all we are doing. So what we're going to name this is get occupants label, because it's a label, it's a text label at the top. And local text label. Local text label, yep, it's converted over. So this will be construction workers. Ooh, I'm not sure what occurs is. Let's do that again. Workers versus occupants. There we go. compile, save. So that takes us through the construction workers. Now is the tricky bit. Now we have to get our occupants. Now we don't have any occupants in the building yet because we haven't set anything up where they can take occupants. And we'll do that in the next video most likely. I say most likely just because I am not 100% certain the order in which makes the most sense to do this quite yet. I'm going to record it after I finish recording this one, so hopefully I'll be able to say in the intro video, the intro part of this video, which I haven't recorded yet, which you've already heard, so this makes no sense from your point of view. Alright, I'm just going to close all these things out. We're in our event graph. What we need to do is we need a custom event. So let's just go up here and let's do our custom. Actually, we're going to move this because I can see where my 0, 0 point is. And I like having this on my 0, 0 point, which is right there. Custom event. And this custom event, sorry about the voice there, will be update occupant list. And what we're going to do is we are going to first, is this widget enabled? So get is enabled. If it isn't, we don't want this to ever fire. Oh my god, no, do not fire. Do not waste the resources. Get is enabled. If it is enabled, then we want it to check the number of people or a number of items in this unit box. So let's grab our unit name box. Boom. Get it. Get the number of children. So this number of children, so get children count. Remember, I said it's going to replicate itself over and over and over again. It can do this ad nauseum. We want to know, is it not equal to the number of people we have sent into this building? So to do that, we're going to create a new, we're going to create a new, we're going to create a new array called occupants. Now we haven't set occupants, so this is going to be kind of a dummy variable for now. Occupants will be of type RTS unit master. It will be an array because we're going to have multiple types of that. We're going to have multiples in there. So we want to get this. We want to know, is it the length of it? If the number of children and the length aren't equal to each other, then this list does need to be updated because there's a difference between what we have on screen and what's in our array. So we've added a unit into the array or we've removed a unit from the array. So we want to do a branch here. And if this is false, if this is true, these two aren't equal to each other. So then we want to set our unit names. And that is going to be a function we're going to create right now. So we have set unit names. So we have our getters, and now we have a setter. First thing we're going to do is just to make sure we don't duplicate things. So duplication bad in this case. Very bad. In fact, it actually will cause a whole bunch of glitches. Like it won't run correctly. We are going to clear all the names from the child. We're going to clear that button list. And then we're going to repopulate it. This is just so we don't duplicate names and thus have a infinite loop of it's not equal, keep adding names. It's not equal, keep adding names. Actually, I'll keep removing names in that case. We are going to take the occupants list. We are going to do a for each. So for each member of this list, we want to get their names. So we're going to pause there because we don't have the next part, which is getting their names. All right. So let's get our unit names. So we have set unit names. Now we need to get unit names. So get unit names. And, well, this is where we create that widget. So we need to do, first in here, we need to do a new input, which will be unit name, or unit name. Actually, I'm going to do target unit because I've been using target unit for a lot of things, and it's a better convention for me. Unit name, RTS unit master. Get our reference to it, and we are going to drag off of here. We are going to do create widget. The widget we are going to create is our occupant text field. All right, let's open this back up for a second. We need to we haven't exposed these. We need to expose and make these we make them so we can edit them. Yes, I am avoiding that word like the damn plague. All right, there we go. So, ooh, that's the wrong window. Refresh, or actually, hang on. Compile this, save it, refresh. Node, there we go. Okay, so we're not going to worry about the vehicle because we're definitely not in the vehicle, but we are in the building, so this is going to be self. Get a reference to self. The unit is going to be, well, this target unit here. That's the unit that we're passing in. And we're going to need to get something from this unit. We need to get the name. So we need to get, we're going to do profile. That's why I named it. Get unit profile. Alrighty, so we're going to take this profile. We are going to split the structure pin. Wow, I forgot how much more I've added into this. We are going to, from here, we're going to get our unit name. Actually, we're going to set our unit name. So this is, remember that text field in here. We are going to set it here finally. There we go. We're going to set it to this name here. Boom. There's our conversion. We're just going to move this around so it's a bit neater looking. In fact, actually, we're going to have 2 reroutes in here because it's going to be easier to do it that way. Put 2 reroutes in. I'll line them up in half a second. There we go. Move this way. Move that over there. All right, so now we have our, sorry, I don't like how that looks. There we go. So now we have our unit name going in, and we now need to add this as a child onto the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the unit names box back in here, and we're going to add this as a child. So for each of these, remember, for each time this happens, it's going to add this in. What is this content? Well, the content is the widget in which this is coming from. This is this widget here. Except for I didn't mean to drag like that. I meant to drag like that. There we go. And just because I don't like how that looks, it looks weird to me, I'm just going to put another reroute in. And now we need to return off of here. Alrighty. So, compile. Go back here. We need to actually add in this element. We need to actually add it in. So we need to get our names. Our target is ourselves because it's happening in this blueprint. Our target unit is this array element. So for each element of this list, so for each occupant, for each NPC we send to the building, get its name, add it as a child, return here, repeat until this list is done. When this list is done, return. We're done. Boom, list is made. Now, we can't really fully test this because, well, we don't have any way to send the units in yet. But at least we now have our text list completed. Now, because of the length of the video, we aren't going to do the delete or the release. We'll do the release as part of the next video, and we'll do the delete a little bit later on, probably the video or 2 after that. So let's go ahead and hit play real quick and make sure everything else is working. Let's open up this. It should be 25%. It's about 25%. Training post. It says occupants instead of under construction. Let's add in a factory. There we go. And as you can see, it starts to build because, you know, we said to do it. Actually, hang on. Let's close this out for a second. And it says construction workers too. Let's watch this work. All right, as we watch this work, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, go ahead and hit that like button down below. Let me know I'm bringing you content you appreciate. I'm trying to erase this thing. I'm just going to lose anyway, and it converts over. If you want to see anything in this series in particular, let me know, and I will add it in, or I'll try to add it in, or I'll answer any comments or questions down below. As always, I hope to see you in the next tutorial, and I hope that, you have a wonderful day.